Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Dan Jerry here. Thank you so much for being here. I like that you call me Dan Brooks as well. It's still my name. My friends call me that. And when you log onto this video and start watching this content, you automatically become my friend. So how have you been? I hope you've had a beautiful week because I've had a beautiful week too. And I'm so grateful. And guess what? I am exhilarated. Today is the third day off. My favorite month of the year. It's March, guys. I'm a Pisces. I'm a March baby, and I'm exhilarated to just spend time this month and just reflect on how last year has been and just be grateful as I turn a year older, and that kind of thing. So how have you been? I hope your month started on well. I hope you're enjoying your time here on earth, and I hope you love everything that you're doing, so today I want to talk about my favorite podcasts that are going to be uplifting, podcasts that are going to help you in one way or the other, podcasts that are going to help you enjoy doing life, you know what I mean? Because they teach you real life skills, they teach you really enriching things to your soul, to your mind, and to your spirit as well. So I don't know if you listen to podcasts. I don't know if you're a radio person or you really like to listen to podcasts. As for me, I am a fan of podcasts because I feel like that's the new radio. You know what I mean? I honestly love it so much, and I just remembered another podcast that I really love that I just started listening to it. So I mean it's so interesting, and podcasts have a way of just giving you the feel of radio and that kind of thing. I really love podcasts, and I would like for you to hear what I listen to, because there is the content for those podcasts is so enriching, such that you become a better passion. The Kikuyu in me. Anyway, even as I shoot this, it's around 8, so forgive me if I sound a little bit sleepy and that kind of thing. But I am so excited to bring to you because I'm a morning person and I'm full of energy. I worked out, I meditated, I read the word of God, and I'm so exhilarated. You know what I mean? Anywho. I guess let's just jump right into the content, into the list of my favorite podcasts. I'm going to explain a little about what they talk about, and then you can hop onto them. I will try and leave links at the description box so that you can automatically listen in. And for a minute, by the way, I thought I should turn this channel into a podcast, because I feel like whatever we talk on here would be so enriching, even if, as a podcast as well. So I don't know. What do you think, guys? Should I turn my channel into a podcast, like both on YouTube and maybe on Podcast Addict, Castbox, Spotify, or wherever you listen your podcast to, And yeah, there's so many apps for podcasts, like Castbox. I know I just mentioned them, but let me just mention them again. So kuna Castbox, there is Podcast Addict, there is Google Podcast, there is Apple Podcast, there is what do you call it? There is Spotify as well. Those are the 5 apps I know that share, like they upload, like it's a platform for podcasts, basically. There's construction going around, so I'm trying to speak as fast as I can so that the sound does not mess up this sound. Okay. So one of my favorite podcasts, number 1, goes to Super Soul Sunday by Oprah Winfrey. These are like pre-recorded episodes of hers. I think these are interviews she did on TV, but then they've been converted onto audio, and the podcast is called Super Soul Sundays. Every episode is published. I'm not sure whether it's Sundays, because when I see a notification of a new episode, I always listen in. But Oprah interviews different people. She talks to them about life. Like the most recent one I listened to was it was an interview with Michelle Obama, and she was talking about the reason as to why she wrote about becoming Michelle Obama and doing this kind of thing. Like, it was so beautiful. It's such a beautiful podcast. It just helps you look at life in so many perspectives. So I would like for you to hop onto that. That's Super Soul Sundays by Oprah Winfrey. Okay. And then the other thing, by the way, this would be a very good one. The other podcast, that is, this would be a very good one if you're trying to start listening to podcasts. If you're trying to start adapting this culture of listening to podcasts. I feel like a Clyde Lee Dennis. That's his name. But the title of the podcast is 7 Good Minutes. He takes a clip that is 7 good minutes and it's turned into audio, and that audio is always life changing, and every morning he's always like, today the thoughts for today are such and such and such, and he reads a quote. And many other times that these quotes have really resonated with me, and they have taken me throughout the day. You know what I mean? And they're very enriching quotes, and they're quotes you can quote in your speech, or even if you're writing. We're working towards becoming better people so that we can, allow ourselves to become better people in terms of personal development. So this podcast is really good. It's just 7 minutes, 7 good minutes. Maybe you can do it. Well, me, I do it in the morning when I'm doing the dishes before breakfast. So I listen to it, and it's so enriching and it's so enlightening, and there is so much to learn from. Okay, so that's 7 Good Minutes by Clyde Lee Dennis. That's podcast number 2, one of my favorite podcasts. The other one is So This Is Love by our very own Julia Gaido, And this podcast is such an interesting podcast. Like, Julia is a sucker for love. Let me just tell you a little bit about Julia, just in case you don't know who Julia Gaido is. Julia is a sucker for love. She really loves love. And this podcast is called So This Is Love. So she brings on guests onto the podcast and talks about love, basically, about their relationships, about the relationship that they loved and lost, or the relationship that ended up to be there forever, happily ever after. You know what I mean? And those stories are so enriching. On the episode, she's brought like gay people, she's brought straight people, and all those stories, there is so much to learn about, and it's about love as well. So if you're a sucker for love as well, why not hop onto that podcast, because it's so beautiful, and the stories. And you know what's interesting? The most interesting part is that her guests are such good storytellers. That's mind-blowing, honestly. Like, the way these people are able to articulate their stories and actually tell them as it is, it's so amazing. Like, I can't even fathom. Like, these guys can really tell stories. So hop onto that podcast. It's really nice. It's called So This Is Love by Julia Gaido, but her name on Instagram is Jules_her. Yeah, so that's another podcast I would like for you to hop onto, because it's really good. And then the other one is Lovers and Friends by Sean Boudram. Yeah, this is also another podcast that there is so much to learn. This is a podcast that you should hop onto if you like what? If you like psychological stuff, if you like sexual stuff, if you like stuff to do about sexuality and what sex feels like, or that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy, and there is so much. She brings on different guests, and then this one is international, so she brings out really good guests who are able to talk about real life issues and how to deal with X and X and X, and yeah, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm trying to make myself a bit comfortable. Okay, fantastic. So Lovers and Friends, it's also on Google Podcasts, I think. I listen my podcast from Google Podcasts, so I feel like that's a very good platform, because if you're using an Android phone, you obviously have Google, so you just go to Google and then you download Google Podcast. It's an app that looks like, but it's an interesting app. Maybe I can show you here how it looks and that kind of thing. Okay, I'm shooting right at the window, and I've toward the curtains and everything, and I think I'm causing a lot of attention. It's very early in the morning, that's why I'm shooting. Anyway, I need to get this done. Okay, the other podcast is IRIP. IRIP is a podcast by Kwambox. Now Kwambox, well, previously it was Noni Muthoni, but I just know her as Noni. Sharon Mashira and Julia Gaido. This just tells you how much I love Jules. I mean, I'm listening to two of her podcasts. Lol. Yeah, but right now the podcast is hosted by Sharon Mashira, Julia Gaido, and Sheila Kwambox. You know her. Apparently she's also called Patricia. But anyway, so here in this podcast, this is a very Kenyan podcast, by the way. It's a very Kenyan podcast. Like, the content on there is very Kenyan, it's very raw, it's stuff you can resonate with, it's stuff you can relate to, and the podcast is called It's Related, I promise. Yeah, for sure, it's related for sure. So it's a very good podcast. They talk about real life issues. Like the most recent episode I listened to was what are the marks that you got for your KCPE, or is it KCSE results? They were talking about the KCSE results. And if you're a Kenyan, you know what KCSE is, and this is one of the exams that we do as we finish high school, and that determines the kind of college you're gonna go to, or university you're gonna go to, or actually how your career is gonna look like. You know what I mean? Yeah, so IRIP is also a very good podcast. I would like just join, and it's a very subscribe to it, especially if you're Kenyan. There is a lot of content that you will relate to, and it's hosted by women, and these women are very beautiful women who have really made it in this, like, they have made it in the media industry, so they know what they are doing. You know what I mean? I love it. I love the professionality. I love the seamless conversations, and then they share really so much. They don't hold back. Well, of course they have reservations on what to share and what not to share, but on the topic they're discussing at the time, they're usually very candid. They talk about real life issues, and to me, that's just it. Anything that's about real life stuff, please plug me. Okay, so the other thing, the other podcast is to my sisters. I'm not sure whether it's Letters to My Sisters. I've subscribed to it. I've listened to an episode. I think that should come last. So let's talk about On Purpose with Jay Shetty. That's number 6, sorry. On Purpose with Jay Shetty. On Purpose with Jay Shetty is a podcast that, if you don't like any of this, you have to like that one. Jay is such a brilliant human being. He was once a monk. He's an author. He's a writer. I don't know. I don't have more information about that. But he was once a monk. And I feel like not many people becomes monks and then they stop and then they, you know what I mean? And then they now live like a normal human life. Once you've had an experience of a monk, how will I say it? You become transcended. You become a human being who is connecting to the highest form of his subconscious. You know what I mean? And Jay Shetty is exactly that. If you like stuff to do with psychological issues, personally, I'm very passionate about psychological issues. Stuff to do with the things, like stuff to do with rewiring your insides or unwiring, relearning and learning and learning. You know what I mean? And that's what Jay Shetty's podcast is about. Basically just learning, relearning and unlearning. And it's so much to learn. There is so much to learn. The last episode I listened to, he was interviewing his wife, and it was such an enlightening conversation. They were talking about love and how they met and how they deal with issues as a couple. Radhi is his wife. Bro, just go watch that. It's actually on YouTube and also on Google Podcast as well. So go watch or listen and tell me what you think about it, because it's such a beautiful podcast, and I have learned so much about myself through this, because it has to do with a lot of personal development and just getting you and accelerating you towards achieving your life goals. You know what I mean? And there is a lot to learn. Guys, if you don't listen to podcasts, I honestly don't know what you're doing with your life. Sijui unafanya nini with your life, because podcasts are the new radio and they're changing lives, literally. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's On Purpose with G Shetty, and that's our number 6 podcast. And then the other one is Legally Clueless by Adele Onyango. I loved Adele right from when she was in Case 100. Case 100 FM. If you're a Kenyan, you know exactly that's a radio station in Kenya. And there was so much to learn. There was so much to learn from Adele. She was just starting out at the time, and she had been on radio for quite some time, and then she stopped being on radio, and then now she opened her new podcast, and then she's been an activist for some stuff. I honestly don't have like a lot of information. I didn't do like enough research for about her, but I know these things at the top of my head. But Adele is such an interesting host. Sometimes she just lets the how will I say it? Sometimes she just lets the guest explain the story to them. To us, like the last I listened to was she was talking to Nyarkano, Swir Nyarkano. Do you know her? She's another spiritual being who is just blowing TikTok. She's a TikToker. I know her from TikTok. Yeah, so there is a lot to learn on this podcast. So if you don't listen to podcasts, please hop on to one. At least one of these. I'm telling you, you will love listening to them because they are so life-changing. And Adele and Legally Clueless, they talk like it's legally clueless. I have zero idea what I'm doing. That's what she says on the podcast. Like, I have zero idea what I'm doing, so I am legally clueless. I don't know what I'm really doing, but I have done X and X and X, or maybe you can follow this and this and this. You know what I mean? And Adele is such a beautiful human being. You will love her aura, you will love her energy. You better hop onto her podcast. And now the last one is Letters to My Sisters. I don't know whether it's Letters to My Sisters or it's To My Sisters. I'm not quite sure. But what you can do, you can just type it, and then you will be able to find it on Google Podcast or Apple Podcast or anywhere you listen your podcasts from. And guys, that marks the end of my list. This list is literally like a lifesaver. My favorite podcast, ever since. Actually, you know what's crazy? I started listening to podcasts in 2016. I'm in 2017. I think it was 2016. And I started listening to podcasts because of Joanna. I was watching Joanna Kinothia, by the way, and I used to love her when she was starting out and things like that. Yeah, I still love her. I'm still subscribed to her channel. I've been one of the OG followers of hers, and she put me onto podcasts, and apparently I really loved them than I loved radio. So yeah, podcasts are so nice. And I remember I started listening to podcasts through Podcast Addict, but now Podcast Addict is still there. You can download it on Google Play Store. And yeah, I really love podcasts, is all I'm saying. So I've been listening to podcasts for quite some time. This is something that I really enjoy to do. And that said, that marks the end of my video. Thank you so much, guys, if you stayed through. You are amazing. You are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the support you've given me. Thank you for the subscribers. This month, let's get to 300 subscribers, shall we? Let's get to 300 subscribers. I'm really working hard to make sure that I am consistent. I'm really working hard to make sure that I deliver a video every week, guys. And this is such a beautiful list of podcasts, and I pray that you will hop onto it and that it's going to help you in one way or the other. I also love TMI, by the way, but I don't listen to it as a podcast. I watch it as a YouTube channel. You get? Yeah. So yeah, and Joyride podcast. Yeah, they're called podcasts, but I feel like these ones I don't watch on YouTube. I listen through the Google Podcast app. Yeah. So that's it, guys. Please subscribe to my channel, share my content, leave me a comment, tell me which one is your favorite podcast and if you listen to any of them, because that is going to help us become better people. And also, don't be scared of sharing what you like down there. Just tell me which one is your favorite podcast, if at all you listen to podcasts as well. And yeah, so that's it. That said, I have to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for listening and watching. You are an amazing human being. Don't forget that. So ciao ciao. Love and light.